Hi, welcome back to Future Fast. And like always, we have a very interesting guest today. And before I bring her into the conversation, thank you for your support to Future Fast. Uh, and some of you are even giving your feedback. Really appreciate it. And many of you just consume. We appreciate while you consume. We hope you are getting something out of it. But do subscribe. That would be really nice. And do share it with those who you think will appreciate it. And enjoy today's conversation. And this is with Desiree uh, Driesenaar. Uh, well, I hope I got that right. And
You
she
did.
is okay, great. And she is the founder for Abundance for All. And what it's about, we'll talk about it. And she's also the co-founder of uh, Fire Guardian. What that is about, we'll talk about it as well. And she's also a writer, and look her up on Medium, and I'm sure you'll find it. Hope so. Basically, thank you so much for making time to be here with us in Future Path. Welcome to Future Path.
Thank you for having me.
So it's a practice. What we do is that we start with your journey. So can you share your journey with us?
Yeah, it is. I'm 59 years old and I started my career without computers. So it was 1988. I was 21 years old and I did applied sciences, economics, and languages. And I became rather quickly a business unit manager in a big transport company in Amsterdam. A girl, 25 years old, between the men, 100 men. So it was rather interesting, but it was also lots of fun, and I really loved it. And I loved the challenge of business. I loved the challenge of a family company because it was a big a bigger SME family company, about 300 people in total, lots of cranes and trucks, and I did the removals department, and it was really lots of fun. And then at some point I started, what's more, because I'm a curious person. So this was one of my bigger jobs of 7 years. But every 3, 4 years, I got a bit bored and thought, let's do something else. So because I did marketing, I went to advertising agencies and worked with a lot of, well, I don't know, organizing big fairs and big exhibitions for brands like Volvo Truck and Bus or things like that. And I always stayed in technology in some way. I don't know why, but and then because of my language interest, I've always been good at English. My parents are very Anglophile. And at some point, my husband wanted to live in England. So we relocated to England, and that was a really nice expat journey. And then I came back to Holland at some point, and it was really a moment of intuition that brought me on my path. And I really don't know how or what. But in 2011, one morning I woke up and I thought, okay, the night has told me to be in holistic sustainability and to become a freelancer. And it scared the shit out of me because I wasn't a freelancer person. At that moment, I was an international marketing manager for a high-tech company in Holland. We had sales offices in China and in Japan. And I organized exhibitions, and I made magazines, and I did a lot of business to business explaining of plasmas and vacuums and machine building and things like that. And I didn't know what holistic sustainability meant. I did know that I always had the discussions with the guys and the designers that we made a sustainable product, they said, and they wanted me to put the big greenwashing over it because they said, yeah, we make thin layers and then it was mainly in automotive and tools, and also in for decorative purposes. But what you do is you make a very thin layer. It's physical vapor deposition, and you reduce friction. So in engines, and mainly diesel engines, they had a lot of customers. You really make them more sustainable and more energy efficient. So yes, it is sustainable. But the machines, we live in a kind of a small city in Holland near the German border. And we were the top consumers of energy with our machines, because it is not a cold plasma, it's a hot plasma. And it is a batch process. So you heat it up and you do a batch and you cool it down again. And I said, well, it should be possible to make that sustainable. So I always had the discussions, and I said, you can save that heat and you can use it again. Why not? And he said, no, Desiree, just keep to your international marketing management, and it's not that simple. That was always the thing they said to me. It's not that simple. And I thought, well, to me it is. It's like logic. It's like, okay, and then you just use it again, or use it more, or whatever, or you make a cold plasma or atmospheric plasma, and they always said, of course, it's not that simple. And they're right. It's not that simple. It is technology. But that was the moment that I started thinking, and I thought, let's learn a bit about it, because I don't know anything about solar panels or windmills, and I'm not interested, I must say. I'm really not. I'm interested in nature. I'm really a nature person. I love the outdoors. And I thought, well, what is holistic sustainability? And I started learning, from cradle to cradle, and from circular economy, and from the natural step, which is a really good program in Sweden and Canada. And they all have their own programs. And I started learning about Ayurveda, which is Vedic. So that's more your direction. And I started learning about traditional Chinese medicine, and I started learning about lots of things. And I thought, what is holistic and what is sustainable about it? And then I came to Blue Economy. In 2012, I attended a lecture of Günter Pauli. And Günter Pauli is a professor, and he's also an entrepreneur, a Belgian one. And he wrote the book, The Blue Economy, and it had just been translated in Dutch in 2012. And all of Holland was really mesmerized by this Belgian guy who said it's all possible. And if you just think interconnectedly. And it was Blue Economy. I thought, well, I know economy, so let's do something about economy. And I started learning with Günter. I went in 2013, I went to the summer school in Hungary. I met loads of professors there who thought in the same way, very interconnectedly. Professor Tibor Kish and Luigi Bistanino in Italy, and a wonderful architect, Anders Nyquist. And well, some of these people have already passed away, but it was such a wonderful time of learning. And we went to El Hierro, which is a small Canary island. And there, Javier Morales, he built the economy of scope of El Hierro. It's really a wonderful story. And I learned so many lessons on how it can be done, an economy of scope, an island economy. You just make a circle and you say, okay, this is in and this is out. And with what's in, you make abundant materials and you just do it and you just make it happen. A really growing, wonderful synergy economy. Well, Günter asked if I came to Austria. We did the same thing again with computers. I met wonderful people in Croatia who do it, and systemic designers. And a lot of things were, and that was the beauty of it, with nature, because we use nature. And with using nature, I mean not the extractive way, but we really use the intelligence of nature. So I learned so much about biomimetics and biomimicry and Janine Benyus in America, and it's like a whole world opened up for me. And I thought, wow, I don't know what's happening here, but this is so awesome. And all these professors had I had these theories in the 1970s, and which is around the time I was born. I'm from 65, and a lot of it wasn't scaled, and I didn't know why. And I thought, well, let's scale some things, and because they are so wonderful, great solutions, and you will have self-repairing materials, and you will have like, well, I then understood what the company with the physical vapor deposition was doing, because it's like butterfly wings. You make a structure, and the reflection of the light gives it the color. And you just have to make sure that the way you produce it is stable. Because if you have a very blue butterfly, it will be the same blue, whatever way you look at it. So that is what is interesting. And you don't have to use toxic inks anymore. You can just do butterfly wings. Why not? And you can have lots of very healthy technologies and make it happen. And this fascinated me so much that I went on my own journey. In 2014, I took the leap and I became full freelance. We were with a couple of entrepreneurs in Holland, near the German and Belgian border. We're in Limburg, which is a part of Holland, not near Amsterdam or Rotterdam, I must say, but we're a small country. But we're more at the heart of Europe than at the heart of Holland, let me put it like that. So we did projects on healthy buildings with German architects. We did lots of engineering things. There is a university nearby, which is in Brabant, Eindhoven. It's a university of light, because it is it's also where ASML is, and ASML is at this moment a monopolist for the electronics, the chip making machines, I must say, with light, light reflection technology. So there's lots of it coming together in our area of Holland, between Holland and Belgium. Let me put it like that: Holland, Belgium, and Germany. And I became a permaculturist because I really saw the value of microbes and soil biology and water biology. And I learned and learned and learned. And I must say, it was never my field. I have a sister who is a botanist. And my brother-in-law is a professor in botany and toxicology in Ireland. I have a father who's a chemist, a chemistry analyst, I should say. And I have a mother who's an alpha like me, who's philosophy and I don't know, languages person, and she was always very particular about my language. And then I found out that also in a lot of the universities, everything is about math and about language. And then you come automatically to ICT, which is a communication technology. And you also come to psychology, because if the UX isn't right, then people will not use it or learn to use it. So you need to have interfaces between humans and the technology. And then 2 years ago, I think, 2 years ago, well, 3 years ago, maybe it's even longer, because I think it was before I became ill. a professor reached out to me, and that is Professor Johan Gillis. He's Belgian. And he said, Desiree, do you want to understand the super formula? And I started laughing and I said, well, you can try. But he came from the tribe of Günther, and I heard about the super formula in 2013. And I tried to understand, but I'm really not a math genius.
What is
I
super
just
formula?
A super formula is the king formula of biomimetics, and it is about super shapes, and it is about transformations. And if you now know that at this moment in all technology, we are cutting and pasting and really putting things behind each other, then super formula is making it transformative. That's maybe the easiest explanation. You can look it up online. It is on Wikipedia. It is a generalized formula for after the Lamé formula. It is a Pythagoras, but it is a generalized formula, and it is one formula for all diversity, and that made it interesting. It is a unified formula for everything. And that is, of course, for me, that's Stephen Hawking. And I love that. But of course, I'm not an astrophysicist, so I don't understand anything. But okay, I loved, and I said to him, well, yeah, let's try. Why not? And then I became ill. In 2021, I became seriously ill. In December, I was in Greece. We just had a new project in Peloponnese, and I was traveling there, and we went home for Christmas, and then I was diagnosed on this coming home with breast cancer, and not a tiny one, but a big one. And I needed to have the big chemo, and I needed to really go the big treatment. And I hated it. I didn't know what to do. I was completely confused. My husband went back to Greece to pick up our car again, and we didn't have a home in Holland, so we stayed with my mum, who is wonderfully supportive, but also in her 80s. So it was a really challenging time for the three of us. I lost my hair, I lost my nails, I lost everything. And my factory wasn't working anymore. And it was a very challenging time. I can now maybe talk about it with not so much emotion, but at that moment, you can imagine it was a roller coaster. Freelance and illness don't go well together. So I was just, trying to survive. And on the one hand, it was horrible. On the other hand, it was also interesting for someone studying nature, how nails grow back, or how hair grows back, and how it feels, or how I don't know. It was so double everything, but it was, challenging. So I saw hospital from the inside. I saw all the children with cancer, and it changed me even more, because before that I was trying to make healthy solutions, and after that I even wanted it more and more and more, because we need it. It's really, you can't have children even born with cancer, and of course human health is connected to environmental health. There's no way around that. You can't separate the two. I asked my oncologist when I had chemo, and it was really the worst kind. And I said to him, I got all these leaflets with me, and he said, well, you will be poisonous for a few days, so be very careful what you touch, and to touch your loved ones, and wash your hands and everything, because you will be very poisonous for a few days. And I say, what do I do with my pee and my poo? And he said, well, I don't know. I don't go about that. I say, well, you should, because you should not be mopping up the flood while the tap is still running. It's stupid. And he said, well, we don't really teach that in our universities. And I say, well, you should. You should have these teachings, because it is stupid. And then when I had my chemo and everything, and then I needed to build up my immune system again, I said to him, well, how do I do that? And he said, well, I don't know, it'll go automatically. I say, no, of course not. I've killed everything in my body. There's not a thing that isn't broken. And if your poo doesn't work anymore, then he gives you pills so that it will work. But that's not the way you should have a body. It's like your body can do it, but you need an immune system. So he said, well, I don't know. You can have take some vitamins. I say, well, sorry, but this is really too stupid for words. So I went to an Ayurvedic doctor, and she's a wonderful doctor. She worked in a cancer clinic in India.
You have
She
Ayurvedic doctors there in Netherlands?
Yes. Okay. She is in Eindhoven, and it's alternative medicine in Holland. It's like your insurance doesn't they don't believe in it. Let me put it like that. But I had a very good oncologist, and he doesn't know anything about it, but he said, maybe it's a good idea. I don't know. And he said, I can talk to her. That's not a problem. And she relocated with her husband to Eindhoven. He's a technologist in Eindhoven, the Light City, the University of Technology and whatever. And she is an Ayurvedic doctor in a cancer clinic in India, and she relocated with her husband and the children to Holland, and she started her own practice. She teaches Dutch doctors, like GPs, general practitioners, and because Ayurveda has a lot of the solutions for self-care and for care and doing this kind of thing. So I had talked during my holistic sustainability things to the Minister of Health in Aruba. And Aruba is another former Dutch colony in the Caribbean. Okay. And he is now in Amsterdam, and we discussed a lot about the new health system and how it should be. He has 2 companies, Earth Medic and Earth Nurse, and he does AI on tropical islands to do the diagnosis. And he always says we should combine Western medicine with 2 things, Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine. But of course, that's not in our universities. It's not big scale. It's just when you find it. But I did a Panchakarma in Holland, and it was beautiful, and it helped me so much, and it got rid of so many toxins and everything. And then I learned a lot, because that's what I do with the alternative medicine people. I learn a lot, and they teach me how to do things myself, because that's what I want to be, a self-reliant, self-sufficient person. So, I got declared cured, and now I'm clean again for nearly 2 years. So I got my confidence in my body back again. It's, of course, you'll never get rid of the cancer in your head, let's say, in the confidence, so you just live a bit more by the day than you ever did. But and also nearly dying does that, I think, or really terrible illness. But I thought, let's pick up my work again and see what comes. And all my projects had gone on without me, so I had to find new projects, and that's what I'm doing now. So at this moment, I'm in Bali, and I'm making maybe the connections between different climate zones. I personally think that we should not focus too much on CO2 or other things. If you are in Bali or in any other volcano country, you can just not say, don't burn anything or whatever, if the volcano just, well, at this moment it's Sulawesi, and they have 5 kilometers of ash going into the air, and well, you can't say, well, don't do any industrial production. It's just, you can't say that to people or to whatever. So I think it's all about toxicity, and I think it's more practical. So I do soil and water, sea, and I do basic needs. So I work with the architects on healthy buildings or healthy cities. I work with the wetlands people for sponge cities. I try to redesign economies and industrial estates so they become more healthy. So we do that in Holland, in the river industrial estates in Limburg. We've done 5. And the thing is, it always needs interconnection. You cannot say this company this and this company that. If one has an excess of something, another company should use it. Otherwise, you will have a lot of waste, or you have to do the transformations of things. So that's a bit where my journey is. I've done, because I was ill, it was a very good distraction for me, for my mind and my intellectual knowing, to have these deep conversations with Professor Johan Gillis, who is a very much a technological guy, by the way. The super formula came through bamboo, so the round bamboo, and it's also Barbara McClintock and the jumping genes. It's also the rhizomes in the bamboo, so it's the roots, and it's also just technology. So he clones bamboo things, because in nature some species clone. It's stupid to clone a person or an animal, but some species do clone, and rhizomes do clone, so that is not a problem. So it is a lot of lab work. It's also a lot of technology work. And then last summer we went again back to Greece. So we have an apartment in Greece now. We live there a lot of the time now. And last October, I got asked by a friend who's a chairman of the Alliance of IoTI, Tom de Blok. We are on sea projects together, and he asked me to be an expert in the hackathon for systemic design of Web3 solutions. So that's with tokenization and IoT. And I said, yeah, well, I can do that. I can explain what I know in the physical space, but I just can't code it. It's like, I'm not a technologist or I'm not a software engineer, but I work with software people on this. And we got together with a great team, an Austrian company in Web3 solutions, a Brazilian guy who's in Web3 and tokenization, a person more like me who's in the NGOs of how to know about biodiversity and animals, and she works a lot in remote areas in Africa, and 2 Greek people. They were the ones I already knew before, a math teacher from Crete, and a professor from Athens in AI. So we are a team now, and trying to make solutions with Web3 for wildfire detection, so earlier wildfire detection. And that is a bit where I am at. At this moment, we're 2 months in Indonesia, Bali and Java. And 4 years ago, when we were here, I noticed a technology, a biorock technology, and they really restore it's a biomimetic method with metals and a very soft DC current, and it makes limestone grow faster, and then you can regrow the corals, so the coral space underneath the water, and they do that here a lot. So now we are at the BioRock Center and learning about this, sharing about it on LinkedIn again, and then seeing who's doing what and why, and the environmental people who, it is a technology from 76. The professor has died in the meantime, but some divers and environmentalists have really tried to scale it big. They do lack funding though, so they get no further than a bit of crowdfunding and saying, oh, please sponsor a baby coral, but I have bigger ambitions, so I'm going to talk to them and see how we can scale it bigger, because it is a very good solution for a lot of troubles in the world. And that's how things work with me. I don't know. I just go my path, and then things come and things happen. I write about them, people come on my path, and then we'll scale some things. That's it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, in fact, you also said you enjoyed your work, and you also said that you don't know what was the figure back in 2011, and you started getting exposed to each of the different aspects of sustainability, and then, but what was the trigger for you to start Abundance for All?
Well, it was minimalism. Because at some point in my life, I thought, what is the most sustainable thing to do personally? And I thought, well, let's not be attached to stuff, and let's have a minimum amount of stuff. It was my divorce as well. I left the home, and I left all my stuff behind, even my big wall of books. And it really took me some time to get rid of that attachment. But it also gave me a freedom in my head and in my body for new things. And that was maybe what started it. After I became freelance, I lived in a very small house in nature. And after that, I went anti-squatting, which is like a lot amongst the artists and musicians. They do it in Holland when they don't have enough money to rent a house. They just take care of an empty building. It can be an office building or something else.
And what do you call it?
And you just anti-squatting. It is like we had the thing is, of course, Holland is a country where in the 60s and 70s, there was a lot of hippiedom. So there was a lot of squatting. And that means that a lot of people just took a house that was empty. And now we have these companies in Holland.
Thing? Okay.
No. The thing is, now in Holland, we have these companies and they do anti-squatting. So to prevent the owner from getting squatters in, because if a building is empty, in Germany, it's even a rule that if a building is empty and you have lived there for a certain amount of time, even as a squatter, it can become yours. It's really, it shifts ownership. So that is really something that owners do not want. It's really, it's a big thing here in Europe. So now we have these companies and they do anti-squatting, and then you can live for, I don't know, 250 euros per month. You can be an anti-squatter, and it is like very basic living, because
so basically you are a squatter who will sign an agreement that you will not claim.
Yes.
That makes you an anti-squatter.
Yes.
Okay.
And they don't want to have the really hardcore squatters in, so it's a community. So you only get in when you know someone, so they can vouch for you. So the companies have already agreements with people who do this. And then if a place comes free and they need something, and I
It
was in
goes
a
through the
place
referral
where
network.
yes, it goes with references, definitely. But it's also very insecure living because you can be thrown out in a month. So, and that happened to me. So I thought they still had a contract. It was an old holiday village, and we were with 8 people over the whole terrain, keeping it clean and living there in the holiday houses. As I say, with people like the best bass player of even Europe. If you Google best bass player of Europe or the Netherlands, you'll get his name. He was with me. It's like musicians do this all the time because they don't know how to pay for. Normally, a house in Holland is like you need like 1,500 euros a month to really rent in the free market. And the social housing is not available for people, especially if you don't have children and you're not urgent. You can take 20 years on a list. So, and if you have no, as a freelancer, it's hard to get uh, a mortgage. So then it is a really good way for the artists and the musicians. So we live with wonderful groups of people and we're really artistic and creative and doing the most wonderful things. And I like this kind of way of, well, I like the tribes, let me put it like that. So the creativity also. If you are a designer, you love this kind of creativity. And
So the hippie you like
as
that aspect of where
yeah,
you
that's a
can.
bit of the hippie me. And of course, in permaculture, there's a lot of that as well with nature, with really making the composts and making doing well. Permaculture started out in Australia in the 1970s as a very technological way of doing things, but it's been adopted in the community world and not so much in the hardcore big scaled world. Although in America you have big permaculture farms, you do have really large permaculture farms, but in other countries, I don't know. I haven't seen them. In Holland, of course, we have industrial farming because we have such a small we have a small country, so we don't have vast landscapes to farm. So we need to do it in closed confinements, closed spaces, and really do it intensively. But what I learned in Blue Economy is ecological intensification. And that is synergy. That is really making more and more and more with polycultures. And that is really what is happening in permaculture as well. So it is interesting, large scale and small scale. And large scale, the permaculture has also restored huge areas, especially in Asia. And at this moment, they're busy in the Sinai Desert to regreen the Sinai Desert, because they say that if you regreen that small spot of Egypt, the scientists have calculated that the hurricanes will calm down in large parts of Europe and Asia and Africa. So it is like an acupuncture point for the world to be regreened. And centuries ago, it was green. It is all, the topsoil has just gone into a lake. So they're now with dredgers and everything, putting the sediments back on the land and doing it with permaculture methods. In China, I have been for a while the director of ecosystem restoration camps and communities. And the co-founder of that is John D. Liu. And he's a very interesting American Chinese person, filmmaker also, and ecologist. He works in the Netherlands also in a university. And he has made the film Green Gold, where in 15 years' time, they regreened a part of China which is as big as the whole of Holland and Belgium together. And it
Wow.
was degraded, fully degraded, and now it is a fully functioning ecosystem and economy. And that is what nature-based solutions are all about. And it's all permaculture methods. It's all just about water and soil and I don't know, all kinds of methods and technology and microbes and fungi and things like that.
Well, what was the plan of this 25-year-old Desiree when you were one of those 25 women in 100 men organization growing up, and what did that Desiree wanted to do 25 years later, and what you got into doing? How
Yes.
similar are they?
Yeah, I must say my life, when you get to the third phase of your life, you look back on it, I think, and you think, how did it come to this? And sometimes I live a rather, I won't say spiritual life, but intuitive life. I just do what grabs my interest. I'm very curious and I just want to move on. And I'm very much into knowledge, but also into feeling things and trying to get to the bottom of what I feel and making it personal. I always make everything personal because otherwise I can't feel it. And I don't know, sometimes I think because super formula and the super shapes and everything are highly technological. It makes really algorithms as energy efficient as they can be. It's fully decentralized and distributed. There are VR methods built with it that only take KBs instead of GBs to be transmitted. So that is really technological. And all because of bamboo. There's also a lot of chemistry in this because biomimicry is pure chemistry. As I say, the technology at this moment, the genes are cut and pasted, but there is such a thing as epigenetics. There is just this switch, and genes can be calmed down. Genes can be transformed, and it is nurture more than nature. And that is confusing in the words for people because people think nature is something outside of us, but everything on this planet is nature. Because I talk to the astrophysicists and they say, well, Desiree, it's all nice and well, but we spin with 1,670 kilometers per hour in the universe. And we're just glued with our feet to this rock of, I don't know, not even rock. It's just gas and water and whatever it is. And everything is unique because everything is a complex system. And then there is James Lovelock. And James Lovelock is the maker of Gaia theory with the Daisy models. I told you I'm called Daisy. My best friend was called Margriet, and that means Daisy in Holland as well, in English as well. So the Daisy model is very interesting because it works with tipping points, but not the way people think. It is transforming all the time, every moment into moment into moment. And at this moment in economic circles, they call the world VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Well, words make it ambiguous. And if you start to understand other languages, and I think you can understand because you know Sanskrit, which is such a deep language and has many words, and I learned Greek, and we have two words for time. It's not one thing. It's not linear. It's not, there are two words, there are two concepts. And in Indonesian, Bahasa Indonesia, you have two words for we. It is we excluding the receiver and we including the receiver of words. And these concepts are not even understood in English or Dutch or whatever, because they have become so detached from everything. And then, I don't know, I was born when my dad was working at a nuclear plant. And I really don't know what it all means, but things fascinate me. If I read an article about James Lovelock, he died. By the way, Gaia theory is very theoretical theory, and it's nearly proven. It's nearly fully proven that Earth is a regenerative system, fully regenerative, and not degrading as entropy normally is.
So are we. So are we.
Yeah.
Our cell regenerates all the time.
True. And I kept my faith in that when I was so ill. But you need sometimes to do something to kickstart things again. And that's why I find it so important that people, that if we take antibiotics, it is really a good thing. As a child, I needed it, otherwise I would have died. But after that, you need to build up your immune system again. And then my mom says, well, I've never heard that, Desiree. I don't read that in the paper. And I say to her, well, I'm sorry, but this is common knowledge. It's just not here. Well, my doctor never said it. Really, they don't say it to me. And I say to her, well, just sleep on. You'll do it in the night. It's no problem. She's 89 and she doesn't have any medicine. So she is doing something right. I don't know what she's doing right, but she's definitely doing something right.
Well, it's ironical you said that Ayurveda, and probably you think that everybody in India follow Ayurveda. And it's not true. In fact, there's a big resistance for it. There are a lot of people who refuse to accept it as science here in India. And it's far from, it is still positioned as an alternate medicine, not the core, and let alone alternate. In fact, many people even disrespect. In fact, I have friends who are medicine doctors, and they don't talk about Ayurveda in public or among their community or even among their patient community, because they don't want to be seen as somebody appreciating Ayurveda, because then they will be doubted for it.
Oh, I'm really so sad, because my Ayurvedic doctor, the Indian woman, she told me there is a minister of Ayurveda in your country.
It has come in the last
she also,
few years.
Yeah. And I really love this. And she also said, well, GPs in India are not allowed to prescribe like harsh chemical medicine. They first have to do Ayurveda. And then only after things get really, then you go to a specialist, and then it is always temporary. And that is how I think it should be done.
I think, yeah, that sounds very logical, but I don't think it is done that way. I do have friends who are doctors who, there is another doctor, he's also an MS, MD, specialist for some particular thing. I don't want to talk about what he specialized in. But incidentally, he also went and studied Ayurveda. And he is also a qualified Ayurveda doctor, if you will. But he does not say anywhere that he actually studied Ayurveda also. He says it harms his business. So he uses his Ayurveda understanding and knowledge for advising on nutrition and nutrition alone, because he says, I don't refer to Ayurveda and they think I'm talking about normal food things, so which is okay, they'll accept it. But if the moment I say that I'm qualified Ayurveda doctor as well, then probably more than half his patients will not come to him. So there is a mindset.
I think also Ayurveda, because she really explained to me how it works with the Agni and the stomach fire, because there is this stomach fire, and I definitely had a problem with my stomach fire, and I had a problem with my digestion, so that is very, very specific, very body-like, and I had a problem with my hormones. Well, in Holland, in the whole Western medicine, women are really horribly treated because nobody knows what to do with hormones. Because I had hormone problems all my life, and the only thing they do is maybe give you a plaster with some hormones in it. But there's nothing about transformative hormone balancing or whatever that is done. And I don't like the way this is. Of course, I'm talking to a man now, but I really want women to be big in medicine as well, if only for the female bodies, because this is an issue. Hormones are a huge issue, and it's not that, it's just proven that women have bigger spectrum of hormones. We go with menstruation and everything, we go from top to down and whatever, and you have these mood swings and you have everything, and everybody just doesn't talk about it, and it's all big taboo and big, and in the workplace even more. And if you have emotions, that is a big taboo. And then I think, come on, work is life and we're human, and we're trying to find out how to be human about technology and about everything, and then emotions can't be there. That is stupid. That is, if you have a sick child at home, or a mom, or a whatever, who maybe a dying parent, or it will influence your work, and you have to be able to talk with a trusted person or whatever. You can't separate the two. And then I think we should be really also in work, what I mainly do, I let people feel their bodies for a moment, let them land in a conversation. And then your meeting will go so much more efficient if you maybe stand up for a bit and have a break, and then also just move your body. It's as if this shouldn't be done, but this is normal. And they always accuse me of being black inside, because if I'm on a stage, I'm always talking with my hands and my whole body. And it's like, it should, for me, it's so logical, because I can't do it anyway else. If you have passion for your work or for your life or whatever, there is this body movement as well. And that is, I don't know, in the workplace, it is all dumbed down, and we're all like machines, and we're all, I just posted on LinkedIn something about a camera, and it was rather technological thing that I posted. It was a camera that really talked to a person, and then some professor, he made the cutest remark, and he said underneath, "Just take the picture." And I thought, oh, this is so professor-like. I don't know, and it doesn't matter, because, as I say, I talk a lot with professors, and they understand me, and they take me seriously, and I take them seriously, and we have huge, deep, serious technological conversations. But let's try to stay human.
Right. Desiree, what kind of books, I can imagine already, but podcast would you like to recommend to our audience and listeners? What interests you and that you would recommend?
I'm a great book reader, so I can do all kinds of books. But I think biomimetics and biomimicry is my favorite topic, because it is technology and nature and health in one. It is holistic, but it's also very technological, because it's not about bio-based. Bio-based is another part of it, which is the nature-based solutions. But yes, Janine Benyus and the whole biomimicry tribes. There are big universities doing biomimicry. There is a book it's called Natural Intelligence by Lane Gorgeson. And she's Belgian, by the way, but she really describes it beautifully. And then there is so much we can learn from nature when we accept that we are nature. And that a lot of the things that we do are biology. And some people make it mental, some people make it spiritual. But I think that when I left my marital home after my divorce, and I started dreaming about all my furniture and all my books. And I didn't even have space for them because I lived in this small house in nature, but I kept dreaming about them. And I thought, this is an attachment that I don't need. So I thought, what does this mean? And well, meaning at that moment is meaning for me. So it was, most probably it was my safety I left and my safe feet. And then you start dreaming about this home you want, and then the anti-squatting and everything. I went to a caravan, and I really went completely nomadic. And so, yes, I most probably just wanted safety and stability, but I kept dreaming about my furniture and my books. So I went to my old home, and I sat outside in the car at a spot where my ex-husband, who still lived there, didn't see me. And I started in my mind picturing all these beloved furniture things and stuff. And then I said goodbye to them. And after that, the dreams were gone. And that was so fascinating for me. And you asked me about abundanism, because Abundance for All started out as abandonism. I went minimalistic. I went also, because of this, I didn't want attachment to stuff. My memories are with me anyway. And then I thought, okay, but it sounds wrong because people don't want it, because it is a limiting thing. So I thought, why not make it abandonism? But I thought, somebody must have thought of it. And then I Googled it. And abandonism is used as a term by a Dutch guy in a tweet on the 15th of February, 2012. And the 15th of February is my birthday. And he said the same thing. Minimalism should be called abandonism. Why has nobody thought of it? And I looked at the URL to see. I thought, well, this can never be free, but it was free. Abandonism.com is mine, and abandonism.org is mine now. So I knew that there was something I needed to do there. And then more and more, when I talked to people about it, they said, well, it sounds a bit dogmatic, Desiree. And then another friend said to me, yeah, you're always talking about basic needs, but I want more than basic needs. I said, well, it's all okay. It's all okay. I don't care what you want. I'm Desiree. You can have longings, whatever you like. It's all good for me. It doesn't matter. And then I thought, okay, but I am about what it's all about. It's about health and nature and interconnectivity. So I thought, let's call it abundance for all. So then it can be all as in all humans, fully distributive. It can be all as in all microbes as well. So you will have soil biology and healthy water and living water and things like that. You will have abundant materials, which are, by the way, there's lots of things happening there. We have now the new plastics are made of bacteria and enzymes, and they're fully degradable, and they will be wonderful, not petroleum-like. And they, you have the fungi, and with mycelium, they're growing building blocks, and they're really making whatever's packaging materials and chairs and everything. And then you have the bamboo, which is abundant, and you have seaweeds. There is a professor in Finland. She's a design professor, Julia Loneman, and she had in Davos some years ago, she made a whole pavilion of kelp. And she says, we know so much and we do so little. Come on, let's just make stuff and make it happen. Why not? It's very earthquake resistant. So let's do, well, earthquake resistant, or let's do resilience, climate resilience for humans, instead of just trying to measure CO2 and then not doing anything at all. So that's how Abundance for All became Abundance for All.
Any podcasts that you follow?
I'm not so much into podcasts myself, I must say. I've been interviewed by a few. And one was Anna Rakov Gray. She is now back on Bonaire, and she lived in Amsterdam. She's a young woman. And I did a podcast about Bonaire and about the island economy of Bonaire. She's really interesting because she wants to make it happen for an island like that. And I really love that, if people go back to their roots and make it happen locally. So that is really interesting lady to follow. And then one tribe that is really, and I think she should be one of your interviewees as well, is Dr. Kimberly Samaha. Dr. Kimberly Samaha is an associate professor at the American University of Lebanon of Beirut. And she's also in Maine. And Maine is the most promising part of America if it comes to this. There's lots of indigenous people. They have lots of energy solutions. They have lots of permaculture. They have lots of, I don't know, there's really a lot going on there. It's above New York, and it's a really interesting place. She has many interns, very technical. They make hydrogen vessels that do not explode, and they made based on beehive structures and the way these things are distributed and how hydrogen behaves and things like that. So it's really interesting technologically. And she has been working in this field really big scale. She does a lot in energy with big scale companies, but she also has a foundation with her 4 daughters. And one of these daughters, the oldest, Tia, she's now around 20. She's a filmmaker, hugely talented, very interesting. And I think those people are also people, because there are so many interns and mentors. They have about 150 mentors. They have different places in the world where they do their work. It's Maine, it's Lebanon, it's France, it's Egypt, it's Costa Rica. So, and then in your area, I've been a keynote speaker at the Balipara Foundation. Mm-hmm. And the Balipara Foundation is also a very, very interesting foundation. It is based in India, and it does the Eastern Himalayas. And there are big projects of, for instance, organic tea farms that have extra income streams, because if you go for a synergy economy, you want the companies to go with multiple income streams. So, because then they get more resilient. So it's not just tea, but they have like fish farms, and they have everything there, peppers and whatever, and food forestry, and they are at the edge of a nature reserve. So they give jobs to poachers, so they don't need to poach anymore. So I think there is a lot in these kind of nature-based solutions where you restore the ecosystem, make sure there's abundant material, and then also make an economy work like that. And if you think about cities, there's a lot of city stuff as well going on. And then I would say go to the sponge cities of China. They work with a professor of wetlands, and Wetlands International also does a lot with that for cities. It's water solutions. And then cities are also, when they want to cool the planet, they go for plants on the outsides of buildings. We have a lot now in Holland. But the interesting thing for an economist like me is how we finance it, because all the sustainability is always said to be more expensive, and it's not. It's easily financed if you combine budgets. So that is what I mainly teach, is how to finance health. Because a building indoors is on average 2 to 5 times, the indoor climate is on average 2 to 5 times worse than outdoors, because there's no ventilation, there's not enough ventilation. And then people want to put machines in. Well, that's all nice, but you can also do design, of course. So there is things like termite ventilation, how a termite hill is keeping its temperature completely stable at 31 degrees, because their fungi grow only at 31 degrees.
Right.
And they do it by design. So it's not even, they don't have machines. They don't need like all these things that use energy. They just use design, because hot air rises, and things like that will do it. Hot and moist, and there is so much in there. So there are a lot of solutions now going on in the world. They are copied, and I want them to be copied more broadly even. But then, well, you said in the beginning you wanted to go into the future as well. And I think it depends completely on culture, where it will go, and on the timeline that you are as an economy. Because economy is the problem maybe, and economy is also the solution. I love Web3 and DAOs for what they're doing for distributive solutions and interconnectivity with stakeholders. I do think I at some point in my journey with Günter Pauli, I said to him, I was a bit angry. I said, well, you call it blue economy, and what is about macroeconomy? Because everything you do is about business, and this is also macroeconomy. And he says, well, I don't know about that, Desiree. And I say, well, why do you call it economy then? He said, well, you should go to Bernard Lietaer. And he is also a member of the Club of Rome in the 1970s or something. It was with a lot of environmental professors, and he's was a professor at in France at the Sorbonne. And I thought, well, easier setting for you than for me, Günter, because how do I get to Bernard Lietaer? And he said, well, just try. And I tried, but got no reply. So I thought, yeah, well, this guy's busy. And then one of my friends from Berlin, she said to me one day, she said, oh, I'm going to Amsterdam to it was in my beginning days of a crypto. And she said, to a Bitcoin Wednesday, and do you come? I say, well, it will be an experience for me, because I don't know anything about crypto. said, well, yeah, and blockchain is going to be the most important whatever. And I said, well, let's do it. And so I went there with the Bancor people. Bancor protocol is a big protocol on Ethereum. And who was there? Bernard Lietaer. And they did their lecture together, the Bancor people and Bernard. And he was all about the yin and yang of money. And he gave me one puzzle piece that is still with me, and I still don't know what to do with it. But he said to me, Desiree, if you want an economy without debt, then you need to change. You need to change interest into demurrage. And that was
interest into what?
a revelation. To demurrage, and that is a fee if you hold up the money.
Okay.
So then it becomes compass posting of money instead of extracting of money. So he explained it so beautifully to me, and he said, well, let's do some markets for regenerative farmers or something together. And we went together in a project, and with an English professor as well. And we tried to get funding, and in the end, it didn't work. And England got Brexit, and Bernard died a few years ago. So it didn't work. But the Bancor people, he was an advisor to Bancor. And this Bancor protocol is still very important on Ethereum. And of course, Ethereum had the merge where the blockchains went 99.9% more energy efficient, the mining. So all these things are good signs that if you give it some time, that things will work out in a technological and also evolutionary way.
Totally.
But then today I posted about this building in China with 20,000 people who do not have to go outside. And for me, that is dystopian. It is like.
I would like to talk about it and also get more of your thoughts on that in the second part of the conversation, where it talks more on this. So to this, I would like to share with our audience and listeners that you have the links right below this podcast. So do follow, and it's very, very interesting posts that come out of Desiree, and some of you may already be following her. Some of you may have already seen some of these postings, but may not have connected with her. But now you will. So please do go follow and do share this conversation, and do come back for more with Desiree. Thank you once again. Desiree, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you also. Thank you very much.